All right, let's make this video. In this video, I want to talk about how to. Oh, my name is Noah, by the way. Paragon Bridge Works. In this video, I want to talk about how I measure and model a rail car. Well, this part is just about measuring it, modeling it. That's a whole separate thing. Hopefully, you have experience with modeling stuff. But in this video, I'm just want to talk to you about how I go about measuring a rail car. So the first part, whenever I get to a rail car, this happens to be 89-foot flat car, but the same applies to just about any rail car you're talking about. First thing we're going to want to do is, and this is coupled with taking pictures as well. First thing I'm going to do on the left side of the rail car, doesn't matter what side of the rail car you're standing at, when you're looking at the rail car, left side, you're going to have reporting marks. It's going to be 4 letters and 6 numbers. Okay, usually 4 letters. Sometimes it's only 2, like, you know, CN 1 2 3 4 5 6. But most common is like TTXX 1 2 3 4 5 6, something like that. And it's going to be like in 10-inch tall letters somewhere over here on the left-hand side. So I need a picture of that. So find that, take a picture of it. Sometimes there's a bunch of graffiti, so you may have to hop on the other side and do the same thing. And then over here somewhere, you're going to find a car class decal. The car class is going to tell us, it's almost like, you know, F-150 or Silverado or something like that. But these car classes, they were less clever in coming up with their models. So it's going to be PSH-10W or maybe a BSH or F89G, something like that. It's going to be right over here somewhere. So take a picture of that. That's pretty important on the right-hand side. Okay. And then let's jump into a few kind of general pictures you want to take. You want to go back over to here, snap a picture, isometric view of the rail car here. You're going to want to duck your head in and take a picture right here. You want to come over here, take a picture of this here. What I'm looking for primarily is this center sill bottom flange. Is it straight across, or does it have a come on, baby? Does it have a dog leg like right here? See that, how that has a little dog leg? So I want to try to see if it has a dog leg or not. Okay. And then you'll take a picture right over here. If there's any damage on the rail car, it's going to happen right here. So I want to see that. And I want to see what all the kind of cross members we're dealing with. And you're going to get up. You're going to walk to the other side. You're going to take pictures. Same thing as before. Take pictures here. Take pictures here. And then we're going to walk back over to the other side and finish off taking pictures. So at this point, we have a number of pictures. We have ID, the reporting marks, car class. Then we're going to start actually doing the measurement. So on page 1 of your notes, you're going to want to note the reporting marks, the car class, the date you're inspecting it, the temperature, the weather. You know, is it clear and dry? Is it? So we want just to kind of know what it was like whenever you were measuring this. Like if it's raining and storming, then I know that you may not take terribly accurate measurements when it's raining and storming versus clear and dry. Okay, so then we're going to start measuring the overall width and length of the rail car. These are side sills right here. Okay, this is side. Well, let's go through some nomenclature. Side sills, that's the piece on the side. In sill, center sill, and then these are cross members. We have a few different types of cross members: latitudinal and longitudinal. If you remember back to your geography days, latitude and longitude, that's what these are. Latitude, longitude, lengthwise. Okay, and these latitudinals, they're also referred to as transverse cross members. And then we have the center sill, goes all the way down. The center sill it does change the height, and then you have the body bolster over here. And most everything, especially with the body bolster and the center sill, it's comprised of 2 different parts. The web, you can see the center sill here has 2 webs and a bottom flange. Okay, the body bolster is going to have 2 webs and a bottom flange. Okay, so we'll tackle that here in a little bit. All right, so the first thing you want to do is measure the overall width on the overall width from the outside of side sill to the outside of side sill. Okay, something like that. And then we also want to know the actual deck itself, the sheet that's on top. I want to know the width of that. Okay, because you can obviously tell here that there's a bit of a overlap here So I don't need to know what that is. If I know what the overall is, and I know what the deck um, width is, then I can do the math. I'm good at math, so we can do that math. All right. And then we're also going to want to get the length as well. The length all the way over here. Okay. So we'll have all that. Then we're going to want to measure the center sill bottom flange. Now, whenever you look underneath here, this looks very overwhelming. I remember the first time I did this, 20-something years ago. It's very overwhelming to be able to measure the entire rail car. So instead of focusing on trying to measure everything, we're just going to eat one little piece, measure one piece at a time. And the piece that I start with, and whenever you do this, do this the exact same way every single time. It'll make it a lot easier. So we're going to measure the center sill bottom flange, and we're just looking at it like in kind of, whenever you're drawing it on your paper, you want to draw it kind of like this, right? So just two straight lines here. You can see it does want to bell out. Usually all of these rail cars are generally 24 inches. This one is no different. Okay, so 24 inches, that's how wide it is. But you can see right here, it starts to bell out. So we want to know, here it starts to bell, and then at the very end, what is that measurement there? Okay, and what's the measurement? So those are so we have the outside measurements, right? So let me erase some of this here. Actually, you know what? It may help you to keep those there. That way you know what I'm calling these things. But what happened to my measurement? 34. Okay, 34 inches. So we measure the outside. Then we'll also want to measure the inside pockets. So in this case, this one is 27 inches. Okay, then inside here is going to be 13 inches. And it's usually going to be the same all the way down, 13 inches all the way down. And then we want to measure these pieces here, 7 inches. If there's any other kind of things or, bumps or whatever, notches, we'll want to measure that as well. Now that we have that, I need to know where in relation to the rail car it's at, even though, because like here you can see that sometimes there's a bit of a gap. The center sill bottom flange doesn't go all the way to the in sill. Sometimes there's a little bit of a gap there. So instead of me guessing, the part that I use as a hard and fast like benchmark that I measure up against is the body bolster. Specifically the body bolster web, right? This piece right over here. If you notice the body bolster, the bottom flange is kind of tapered. This is usually about 24 inches, and over here is about 18 inches. So it tapers. So we don't want to measure to that bottom flange because it's tapered. So instead, we'll measure to the web. So I'll want to know what this measurement is from here to that web, right? So from here to that web, what is that measurement? Okay, okay, something like that. So I want to know what that measurement is. If that's too hard to get, then measure from here. Measure from here. Measure from here to that body bolster web. It really doesn't matter which point. If you want to measure from here to the body bolster web, you can. Now, like where it transitions at, where it gets deeper, I do want to know where is that at. So from here to here, what is that measurement, right? Come on, baby. Like that. Okay, something like that. And then also from from here to here, what is, so all these different measurements, or where it changes. I don't even know. I need to know what that is. But all this at a certain point, somewhere on this, it needs to tie and measure back to the body bolster web. Later, when we talk about the body bolster web, we're going to measure the body bolster web to the in sill. So I'll place that as well, right? But that's a little bit later down the road. We're just talking about the center sill bottom flange right now. So we want to measure all these things, and where anything changes. If you want to measure from here to here, you can. All these are, because obviously this is really easy to measure. Just measuring from here to here, that's really easy. All this is really easy to measure. But then at some point, even if it's from here back to the body bolster web, I just need to be able to point somewhere, so I can place this model, these pieces on the model. Okay, so once you have that, The next thing we're going to want to tackle are these little dog legs. It's not uncommon to have these little dog legs. Some of them don't have a dog leg. Also, some rail cars, it is kind of rare, but some don't flare out, or it's a very minimal flare. How this bottom flange kind of bells out or flares out. Most of them do. I do recall seeing one that didn't, and it had to do with, well, I'll spare you the details, but sometimes they don't. Okay, but usually they do flare out. And here, I'd say most of the time, maybe like 75% of the time, these rail cars will have this little dog leg. So you just want to measure the height difference between these two, right? The height difference between these two is 1/2 inch. Okay, and then we want to know where that is at, where that's happening at on the center sill. So again, measure from here back over to the body bolster web. Same thing here. Measure that to the body bolster web, or you can measure from here to here. You know, what's that? Maybe it's 4 inches. I don't know what that is. And then, but one of these points or both of these points measure back to the body bolster web, and I'll be able to figure it out. Then we want to check out the thickness of this bottom flange. And we're still only working on the bottom flange. This one's 1 inch, right? So is it 1 inch all the way through? Does it change anywhere? This one's 1 inch all the way through. Sometimes right about here, they do change thickness, right? So we'll want to note that. If there's any change in the thickness, you'll want to know how thick it is, where it changes, and where it's at in relation to, like if it changed thickness over here, we would measure back to this body bolster over here. This does have two body bolsters. Body bolster webs. So you measure from this. Now you notice, like where this center sill bottom flange starts to flare out. Well, you're going to measure from here over to the body bolster web, right? Okay, so now we have the I'm just going to color that so we know that's done, right? So we measured, and we now know. We'll use this pretty green color right here. Okay, we know what that is. Okay, we have the web, the body bolster bottom flange nailed down. The next is, did I say body bolster? No, center sill. Sorry, center sill bottom flange. That's being taken care of. The next step is the web, the center sill web. What does that do? How thick is it? So we'll get up underneath here, and we'll note what's the measurement from this point here to that. How much of a setback is there, and then how tall is it? Obviously, we'll measure from here down to here, get that measurement, and since this is a dog leg, we'll measure from here down to there. It should be 1/2 inch difference, and we'll measure that all the way down, see if there's any differences. But if that, see here, this is kind of interesting. So you see here the center sill bottom flange, it starts to bell right here, but the center sill web doesn't start to bell until way over here. So we'll need to measure this flare. We'll want to know the edge distance between here to the edge of the center sill bottom flange, and then we'll also want to know what's the measurement from here back over to the body bolster web again. Okay, same thing here. Usually, actually, I've never seen these two not be attached, but we'll also want to note how much of a setback that is. And usually, this web is following the contour of this bottom flange here. Okay, all right. So now we have the web figured out. If there's any kind of changes in height of the web, or if there's any flare outs, does the center sill web flare out at all? And usually the center sill web does flare out right about here. Not always, but usually it does flare out. So we'll need to know the edge distance between here to here, right where it transitions, the distance between here to here, and where it stops the flare, where it terminates right here. What's that edge distance? And that edge distance should remain the same all the way through thereafter. Okay, I've never seen it change inboard to that. Outboard, meaning outside. This is outboard versus the middle is inboard. That the right here is where the center sill flange typically starts to flare out. So now we know that what the edge distance is. We also need to know where that's happening at. So measure from here back over to the body bolster web, from here back over to the body bolster web, and from here back over to the body bolster web. Actually, I don't know why I don't measure the body bolster first since I'm pointing to it, but I don't. That's just how I do things. I've been doing it for almost 30 years. This is just how I do it. All right, so now we have the web. The web has been figured out, and somewhere you'll need to find a hole. You should be able to find a hole in the center sill web somewhere. Usually there's some pipes or something that run through it. You'll be able to measure the web thickness. Okay, so now we have the web figured out. Okay, so now it looks, so we should have that. And once we know this, like from this point to the body bolster web, from this point to the body bolster web, that's all I need to know for now. And it all makes sense. I've been modeling these things for a long time. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to tackle is the body bolster web. The body bolster web, I'm just going to make a copy of that, bring it down, so you kind of know what that's built like. It looks like this. You can see it has two webs, and the bottom plate, and it has these other little things over on the outside as well. All right, so, and just like we handled the center sill, we're going to handle the body bolster. The first thing we want to do is measure the bottom plate. So you want to measure the width. Now this bottom plate, you can see it terminates at the center sill. Some bottom plates actually wrap up underneath the center sill and go back on the other side. But all we're needing to do is measure this quarter right here, this part, and then we'll duplicate it on all four sides. So you're not having to hop around back and forth on each end of the rail car or on each side. Just this little quarter piece right over here. So we'll want to measure just like we did with the bottom plate over here, same thing. So where does that start at? The height between here to the deck, the height between here and the deck, the measurement from here to the web, the measure from here back over to the web. Once I have that, so I need to know if I was measuring this, I would want to measure this to this. Okay, 24 inches. We'll measure this, 18 inches, right? And then we'll measure at the very end. It should be 18 inches. Maybe it tapers more. It still maintains at 18 inches. We'll want to measure from here to here, 10.5 inches. Now, I don't really want a diagonal measurement. I don't want to measure from here straight like this. And, I really want, because it's tough to model that. Instead, I want to know from here to the center sill web. That's what I really want to know. Okay, just like that. And then if this is right at the bottom of see this one's flush with the center sill bottom flange. Just note that the center sill bottom flange is right here, and then it goes down. Now, obviously, I want to know the thickness as well. All right, and that's really all I need here for the flange. Let me back some of these measurements out. And then the web. Again, you should find a hole somewhere on the rail car. If not here, it'll be here. If not here, it's on the other end. You should be able to find a hole. There's usually some brake piping that go inside one of these boxes, and you should be able to get that measurement, the thickness. And this one's pretty simple because it goes from side sill all the way. You're just going to measure this plate. This measurement, the critical measurements are where this is at here, where this is at. Well, I need some good pictures are really helpful. It usually goes to the center sill bottom flange here and the tapers. And since we already have a good model of the plate, of the bottom plate, this is usually pretty simple to measure. I don't really need to know like this measurement here all the way across. I don't really need to know that. Because by deducing it, once I draw the side sill and I place the side sill, I know what the overall width is, and I know where the center sill is at. I know all this other stuff. I can deduce what that measurement is just by doing math, right? It'll check itself, right? But I do need to know like where if this looks like this is following the center sill, all this is all deducible by measuring against something else. So there's hardly anything you need to measure, mostly the thickness, and yeah, that's really simple. Then the tricky parts are like this right over here. I'll want to kind of take lots of pictures. I want to know how thick this is. You can see this is a little bit shorter. So how long is this little piece here? You know, from here to here, what is that? These little reinforcement things I'll need to know. And these aren't really, like, this is not critical. This is more for the railroad whenever they're jacking up the car. This is like a corner that they would jack the car up on. Doesn't really help us when we're designing a bridge, but it's good to know what's there. So just do your best getting the thickness, getting some basic measurements, and we'll run with that. Not critical element. Okay, so now at that point, we have the bottom plate done. We have the webs done. We've measured these, any kind of little brackets, and that is done. Okay, just by measuring that one corner, all the other corners are done. And then the next thing we're going to do is measure the end sill. Right, the end sill is probably one of the more complicated ones that are too complicated for what we need. So try to make it super simple. Oh man, look at that! I deleted a deck. Let me find out what happened to our deck real quick. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna leave the deck gone. Actually, this helps me to show you what that rail car looks like. Good mistake. All right, so the end sill, it can have a lot of parts and pieces, and it can be a bit complicated. For our application, it's just retaining soil. It's not really a structural member. So just do a pretty quick job. Usually they're just like a plate that comes down. They're usually not sharp like this. They're usually kind of radiused over, the nice radius bend. So just tell me how thick that is, and how far this flange is. Now this flange is straight all the way across. Sometimes they start here and they taper out to this over here. They're kind of more bell shaped. If it is, just measure here what that flange is here, measure what the flange is over here, and I can do the math and figure out what that angle is. Okay, and then just by pictures, I can see that the height, once I measure once we model the side sill, which we do last, once I do that, I'll know that usually these are full height. If they're not, if this bottom plate, sometimes these the side sill bottom flange is midway. If it is, let me know. It's only from here to the bottom is only this measurement, and then it's always full height over here. I've never seen them not full height, but I want to know what the full height is and how thick it is, and that's it. We don't need to know much anything else beyond that. Just keep it simple. Okay, so then all right, to clean up the model. I didn't like that deck missing. It was just kind of weird, so I put the deck back on. All right, so now we have the end sill. So we're just doing this corner of the rail car, and then I'm just duplicating everywhere else. And I do need to know what that measurement is. Now this usually the end sills are flush with the end of the deck. If it's set back, if that end sill is set out or in further, just let me know where that is in relation to the deck. And then I need to have a measurement from this edge, from this inside of the end sill to the body bolster. Okay, once we have that, we'll be able to just draw that end sill. All right, let's move on to the next piece. All right, so the cross members, that's where we're going to be heading towards now, is these transverse cross members. Now it can look a bit intimidating, and this is probably what looks to be the hardest part, but it actually ends up being the easiest part to draw. At this point, we are like 80% done modeling the rail car, even though it doesn't really look like it. We're about 80% done. So as you can see, these cross members usually outboard, or in this section over here, there's usually 2 or 3 cross members that we have to model, but they're usually the same thing. This cross member and this cross member are the same style, the same size, the same member. They're iterations of the same cross member. So if they are, we'll label this X1. Usually, let's see if this works here. X1 number 2. So usually these are just X1s, and then this one is usually another iteration of the same cross member X1. If not, you have to label that one X2. So you start at the very end, the very first cross member you get to, whatever style that is, you'll call it X1. You'll measure it. Now, whenever you're measuring it, I don't need to know the length. I just need to know, the height, the flange, and the thickness. That's it. Move on. So on a separate piece of paper, that's all you can do is X1 is draw a little C, draw the height, the legs, and the thickness. Bam, we're done. And then this iteration, if it's the same thing, you're done. We've already measured that one. This one is going to be the exact same thing, another X1 crossmember. You're done. We don't need to do anything else with that. Well, for the time being. Now, once we get over here, these do change. But usually what these are is just an X1. It's exact same as that. It's an X1 with a kicker. That's really simple to draw. All we need to do now for the X2, so for X2, I would draw a little C channel and indicate the cross member for that is just an X1, and this draw the kicker. And the kicker, just like we did with the with this cross member, all I need to know is the height, the legs. If there's only one leg, is it an angle? Is it a C channel? This is like a funky U-shaped piece, not terribly common. I need to know what that is. Some of them have this little leg that comes out, then it comes up. I just need to know a detail of what this kicker is. The critical part is knowing where it's placed at. So these can be really tricky to place. So like these 2 points, we have 2 points of this cross member of this kicker up on top. I need to know from this point to the deck, what's that measurement, and from this point to the center sill, what's that measurement. If that point is too hard to measure, then use this point here from this point to the deck, and from this point to the web. What is that measurement? And same thing over here. Pick a point either here or here. What's that measurement from here to the deck, or from here to the deck? Okay, if it's this little funky piece that comes out, just measure that as best you can, and then I'll be able to model it. Okay, so now we've this particular rail car. There's only we have the X1s, we have the X2s. Then we go over here and we have this other one, the X3. Typically at the middle of the rail car, it's a little bit different. This one is just the exact same X1, but this web is a little bit different. Notice it has this little reinforcement plate here. It's the same concept, same principle as we measured this one. We just want to do the same thing here. How thick is it? How tall is that? What the width is? What the height is? And then I'll need to know the same thing as the other one, and I need to place it. So from this corner or this corner, what's that height to the top of the deck? Okay, so from here to the top of, and usually I like measuring to the top of the deck, not down. Why? I don't know. That's just the routine I have. I measure everything to the deck, from here to the deck, from here to the deck, one or the other. I don't need both, just one. And then same thing here, from here or here to the deck, and then from here or here to the web. Then I'll be able to place that angle. Okay, piece of cake. All right, so now we have all three cross members, X1, 2, and 3. Then on a piece of paper, you're gonna write like a little like a little U shape, a little C channel. It's nice to know also what direction those C channels. See how these little C's are facing towards the middle of the car? Note that. Whenever you're drawing this, draw a bunch of C's. Would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. BB for body bolster, 8, 9. All these cross members. Okay, and you're going to label this one X3, X2, 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 X1, BB, X1, X1. Then all you're going to do, what I do is I come over here and I put up my laser measuring device. I stick it on the back of this and measure to here. Do the same thing from this to this, from this to this. So however you're going to measure it, I need to know exactly what you're measuring to. If you're measuring from the back of this to the face of this, or you're measuring to this edge here, or you're measuring, well, like when you're measuring this one and this one, where exactly are you pulling your measurements to and from? That's pretty important. And then with this cross member here, we're going to measure from, usually I like to measure from the back of this to that body bolster. Okay, and then from that body bolster to here, and I like using a laser measuring device. I can just pop that measuring device right over here, point it to the body bolster, bam, I'm done. Then I flip it around and measure from here back over to I put the device on the back of this, and I shoot right to the web here, right? Makes it pretty fast. And then same thing, I measure from here to the in-sill, and I'm done. Okay, so with that, we are getting close to being done. So all these have been measured. That did not. Let's color all these. Actually, I'm not sure why this is not being. There we go. And then this one is also done. Okay. So at this point, this is what we have. All right. So now we're going to go to the longitudinal cross members. It's over here. We're going to treat these the same way as we did the latitudinal or the transverse. Just give me a cross section of what this is. I also need to know if this is a sharp edge or a curved radius edge. What the radius is doesn't really matter so much. I just need to know if it's radiused or curved. And usually if I have pictures, I'll kind of pick that up as well. I need to know the height, I need to know the width, and if you can, find a thickness somewhere. Usually you can stick a measuring tape, you can stick your finger, you can stick something somewhere to find the thickness of that member. And then once you get those, verify that the outboard members are the same as the inboard members. Okay, sometimes they're a little bit different, usually they're the same. Now this one, these two are usually the same, usually not always. And then sometimes they have a third member over here that's a little bit different. This one is actually, I think that's like a L-shaped piece, like an angle iron kind of tucked away underneath there. All right. Let me see if I can actually get a cross section. I'll pull that. You can see it looks like that. Right? Looks something like that. Okay, so I'll need to know the height, the width, and then once we have that, verify that these are the same as these over here. Then I need to know that what the distance is from here to the center sill web, right? Not to the side sill, because we haven't even talked about the side sill yet. From here to the center sill web, from what the spacing is here, what the spacing is here, you're going to measure this right here, and then we're done, right? That's really simple. Sometimes they have little brackets or something supporting this. If they do, go ahead and give me as much detail as possible, so I can measure that and model it. I'm sorry, so you can measure it and I'll model it. Okay, something like that. Oops, this one's not. Okay, so that's done, and we already did the deck, so we're just about done. The last part is a side sill. Now this is a pretty typical side sill. Sometimes they're different. You just have to measure it and model it. So on this one, now I don't like measuring angles or the length of angles. Instead, imagine this just being straight down and across to here. Okay, so when I'm measuring this, I'm going to measure, what is that height there? I'm going to measure here. And then I'm going to measure straight down, right? Just straight down, and then how far over that goes. And obviously the thickness, I want to know how thick it is too. But something like that. If you do that, I'll know exactly what it is, and I'll model it. And since I already know how far apart these side sills are, it'll be really simple. So then that side sill is done. Okay. Now a couple of quirky things. If there's different brackets, like over here, there are different slots into this side sill. I'm sorry, into this center sill. You just ignore those. Sometimes there's, especially sometimes like right around here or in different places, there'll be like a short little stubby supplemental longitudinal cross member. If you see one just kind of randomly over here, you don't need to measure and model that, or you don't need to measure it, and I don't need to model it. Sometimes on these rail cars, they would put like a kingpin hitch on the top, and in order to support all that extra weight or extra force, they would add stuff to the bottom to kind of reinforce that area. But we're not using it for that purpose, so we don't need to know about it. So if it has like a little funky stiffener somewhere over here that's just kind of random, sometimes you see them over here. All it is a little piece of steel that goes from these two cross members. If it's not throughout the rail car, not like everywhere, then we don't need to model it. Okay, even like here on the side sill, sometimes there's like little pockets that they're called lifting lugs. Jack here stands right. It's usually right here. It says Jack here. This is where they raise the rail cars at. We don't need to model any of that stuff because it really doesn't pertain to what we're doing. All right. center sill. If you do it this way, especially the hardest part about doing this is that bottom flange. If this rail car is still on the wheels, meaning that there's still a plate covering all this up, you'll just have to infer, like if this has a plate covering all this up, well, you kind of know what this line is here, and you know what this line is here, so you should be able to infer where they meet, and then measure it that way. Now, is this critical to get like really close on? No, if we're like off by half an inch or so, it's not going to be the end of the world. We don't really put our abutments that far back, so we'll be fine. Okay, I think that's it. Hopefully that helps. If there's any questions or anything, give me a call and we can discuss it. But this is how you can actually see here how that center sill flares out. Right. So if I delete this, you can see how that center sill kind of bellies out. Right. That is kind of a straight line from here. That's a straight line all the way down to there. Okay. So pretty cool design. This same design is going to be used for both 89 footers and shorter rail cars. On shorter rail cars like 60 footers, see how this center sill has two different elevations. On 60 footers, 55 footers, the same thing will apply to the side sill. 90-foot rail cars, the side sill is, for the most part, well, I've never seen it otherwise, the side sill is one single same height piece all the way across. But on the shorter rail cars, the side sill will kind of belly like the center sill does. So you have to treat it just like a center sill. You just do the same process. All right, how long is this video? Oh man, 36 minutes. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. If you have any questions, please give me a call. Take your time, take plenty of pictures, and we'll get this taken care of. I appreciate it. Thanks.